Okay, we're live. All right, sir, who are you?
Hi, I'm Robin, and I'm a gamer and blogger, vlogger, podcaster, and wannabe game designer.
Okay. And how'd you get started in the modern board games there, Robin?
Well, I tried to think about this because people ask all the time, how do you get started and stuff like that, and it's a real tough question because I've always been playing games since a very young age, and always been into game design from a very young age as well, and never really had the group of gamers around me who wanted to, not a load of geeks around me who wanted to play games. So finding people to play games with has always been hard. When I moved to Denmark, which is where I currently live with my wife, I didn't have anybody there, and I was designing games over the internet with somebody, talking a lot about game design and researching it. And then because I collect comics, and I was looking in the back and I saw adverts for things like the Star Wars miniature games from Wizards of the Coast, and always Magic the Gathering and stuff like that was advertised in DC Comics and things like that. So always kind of could see the adverts for stuff, but never really had anybody to play with. So eventually I let out my inner geek in about 2008, and finally set up an account on Board Game Geek, which I've been lurking on for a while. And when I did that, I carried on surfing, getting interested in it, learning about things, found out about Pandemic through Tom Vassell, found out about Dominion. Those two games blew my mind. The fact that Dominion was a deck building game, you could take a deck of cards and just build up your own deck, just whatever you wanted, and try and win a game like that. And Pandemic being cooperative, that was just phenomenal, because now I could suddenly play a game on my own or with other people and work together to a common goal. So yeah, that was the turning point, I guess. And researching that, found Tom Vassell's videos, and eventually I just, in 2008, as I say, I let loose my inner geek and decided to search BGG for a local gaming group, and found one. Cool. And the rest, as I say, is history.
Now, how did the podcast come about?
Okay, so the podcast started in April of 2014. Well, it actually went live in June of 2014, but it started in April of 2014. And in fact, the story goes a little bit further back than that. A friend of mine had suggested, who was a publisher, had suggested that I get into doing video reviews of games. And at the time, I was pretty self-conscious and feeling not wanting to be on camera. And so I decided that I didn't really want to do that. And I also thought that the market at the time, or not the market, that YouTube was kind of flooded with reviewers doing videos. So I wanted to do something a bit different. And I wanted to do a podcast. But again, there's that age-old adage of, if you're going to do something, either be the best at what you're doing or be completely different from everybody else at doing it. And so I wanted to find something very, very different. And so, being English, I decided what I wanted to do was start up a British podcast with only British contributors, but I wanted to kind of have it almost game show-like. That's where the initial idea came from, and I spent a whole weekend trying to think of ideas for the podcast name, and eventually came up with Whose Turn Is It Anyway, which of course is a pun on Whose Line Is It Anyway, which some of your audience might know as a game show both in the States and in the UK. And it's an improvisation podcast, TV show. And so we took that idea and decided to just have like a topic each week, or every other week, and talk about that topic. And then at the end of that time, we'd play a game, and it would just be for fun. So I contacted a whole load of people on Twitter who I knew who were British. And the very first person I contacted turned around to me and said, well, actually, I'm Irish, but I'll be your token foreigner if you like. And then I thought, well, actually, maybe I can get other Europeans on and make it a European thing. So I contacted a number of other people. We had Iraklis, who was Greek, and we had Ignacy, who's obviously Polish, come on board. We had Geraint and Rhiannon, who are in Wales, and I'm going to forget somebody. We had Nate and Amy and Millie come on in the UK, and then the whole time I've been knocking ideas backwards and forwards with Rhiannon, and I asked her to come on as well. So we had our token American on the show. And then a couple of episodes in, we got Ben and Jacob on as well. And whilst they're both British and British and American, they both live in Germany, so they had that kind of perspective on things. So they came on board, and yeah, that's how the podcast started.
Okay. Yeah, I like it's like a conversational piece to podcast. I do like that. How it's you tend to veer off subject sometimes, but it's you have a subject and then you'll get different points of view from 4 or 5 or how many ever people you have on there. I do like that. It's
I actually at Christmas this year I decided to change the format a little bit because episodes were taking too long to edit with so many people on because everybody's got their own stream of their own track. And I have to sync it all up and edit stuff out the entire time, and it was just taking too long. So I decided to change it slightly so that it was always going to be myself as the host, which it always has been, and then 1 or 2 regulars, and then 1 special guest, and then we'd carry on like that, focusing on the subject. So that's meant that the format has changed slightly, but we still keep the basic idea of a topic with now even I've tend to prepare the questions in advance and send them out in advance so people have a chance to research it a little bit if they want to. But it's not a strict question by question. It's more kind of fluid, and I'll ask the questions as they need to be. Yeah.
All right. So, how did Spooning Meeples come about? How did you join Rhiannon?
Okay, so Spooning Meeples, for anybody that doesn't know, is a video. It's kind of a vlog. It's like, the best way to describe it is like having a pen pal who sends you a postcard every week telling you about what they've played or something like that. And it was started up last year by Tiffany the One Tar and Rhiannon Ox. And they both live on either side of the States, one on the East Coast, one on the West Coast. And it started up through Twitter. The initial idea came, I think, from Daniel Solis, and then Chris Darden came on board with some ideas for them, where they got the name from, about Spooning Meeples, which is exactly what you think. Yeah, so that's how it started up for them. And then at the end of the year, they kind of agreed to do it for about a year. And at the end of the year, because of other obligations, Tiffany decided to stop. And so Rhiannon was not sure what to do with it. And in the process of a couple of days, I'm not quite sure of the timescale, but Kyle signed on to do it. I don't know if he was asked or if he asked. But at the same time, I said to Rhiannon, hey, would it be all right if I came on? What do you think about me coming on? Because then we could carry on the postcards idea with me living over here, and then Kyle in mid-US and Rhiannon on the East Coast. And so every week we alternate, one of us each week, sending out this video diary, if you will. It's about 3-4 minutes long, conversational diary about a topic. So we choose a topic for the month and talk about that. And then in the 4th week, we have a community roundtable where members of the public can come on board and talk about the topic and come with either videos or with tweets or with the BGG guild that we've got there, and come with their input, and we discuss that as well. And always really hoping that a lot of people will come with input all the time. The more input, the merrier.
Yeah, naturally. I mean, it's part of the reason I do this is the viewer interaction or listener interaction in case of that podcast. Now, has Rhiannon ever throat punched you yet?
We've never met in person. We've met online doing recording the podcast, obviously, and stuff like that. But we've never met in person, so not yet.
Yeah, I do like her. She's a good lady. Now, what kind of board games are you into? Are you more Euro, more Ameritrash, combination?
Yeah, well, okay. I guess I started coming into it from the Ameritrash side. Definitely, I've always been suckered by the, should we say, the shiny. When I started, Fancy Flight was probably my go-to company. One, actually, I mentioned earlier that my first games were things like Dominion and Pandemic, but in actual fact, before that, I had bought Arkham Horror, which to this day remains unplayed, which was a Fancy Flight game, and Descent, the first edition of Descent, and that has been played. But both those are Fancy Flight games, and the production quality on their games has always been phenomenal, I think. And so I was very much a fanboy of theirs. But the longer time has made me see the light, some might say, and I enjoy a good Euro game as much as basically I play any game. I love all games. There are very few games that I won't play, and normally it's because of a bad experience more than the actual game itself.
Yeah, so, I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah. So I will play anything. I'll say I'll play everything, any game twice. First time, hopefully the experience will be good enough to bring me back. But if it isn't, then I'll give it at least a second shot with a different group.
Yeah, I'm the same way, especially with the toy thing, because usually the first game I'm screwing something up anyway. Yeah.
I see. This is one of the things we had in the podcast where I said I never play to win, and that's not quite what I meant when I said it. But by that time, it was too late to take back my words. What I meant was that the win doesn't bother me as much as the experience bothers me. As long as I have a good time. Take this weekend, for example, Tabletop Day. I didn't win a single game. I said I didn't win a single game. I won one game. And I actually had more fun in some of the other games where I didn't win because of the guys I was playing with and the trash talk that we had around the table and stuff like that. That was as much fun as anything else.
Yeah. Now, I'm curious how the gaming scene is in Denmark. Is it you said you belong to a gaming group now?
Yeah. Okay. This is quite hard for me to describe because I basically live in rural Denmark. So I live out in the sticks, and Denmark's a tiny, tiny country. The town I live in has a population of 8,000, and our biggest claim to fame is that we have Lego. This is where Lego originated from. So pretty much everything in town is Lego orientated. That and a little airport. But our gaming group is about, I think we're 79 members, 80 members, of which only maybe a dozen are active at any one time. And the majority of them are always playing the same types of games. So even I've become less active in there just because I don't always want to play the same games that they're playing.
Right.
But there's one board game cafe over in Copenhagen called Bastard Cafe. And there are lots of gamers around the place. There's 5, 6, 7, maybe 8 game shops, but not all of them are big. But the games, I mean, the thing is, because I live in rural Denmark, it's not as prevalent as in some of the university cities, like over in Copenhagen or up in Aarhus, where there are a lot more gamers, a lot more people available just to play games anyway. And I haven't participated in them, so I really can't comment on how prevalent it is.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds like the States here. I found over here in the States, it's the northern country or states rather get more groups and all that because it's cold more. You want to stay indoors, and then the West Coast, whereas like where I'm at and below, it's not as prevalent as it is up there. We're out on the West.
Sure.
Like where I'm at, I live right outside of a college town, the University of Delaware,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a gaming group there. I tried once. I really didn't enjoy it too much. I think it's the college kids mentality. I don't get their sense of humor. I may try to go back one day and try it again, but other than that, there's really nothing. So I go up to Dallastown and game up there with the Secret Cabal guys and a bunch of guys that come from Maryland and then out in Pennsylvania. Or,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty much the same here, I think. So now you are a game designer.
I'm a wannabe game designer.
Wannabe, yeah.
Yeah.
You recently had some success with a game there on the BBG Hotness. You want to talk about that? Or?
Sure. So in April last year, I contacted a guy on BGG. It was actually through the game group. Somebody had told me that a guy had contacted them saying that he was moving to Denmark and happened to be moving to my town. And he was British, like I am. So I contacted him on BGG and said, why don't you come over sometime when you've moved over? I'll show you around. And we eventually met up and basically ended up playing a lot of games together and started designing games. And we've made a number of inroads in a few designs and had a lot of fun doing it. And I can't remember when it was. It must have been about probably about August last year. He came over with a game, or the idea of a game of his. He had a Sherlock Holmes game on BGG that's kind of based around consulting detective. He'll probably kill me for getting it wrong, so we'll leave it at that. But the idea was he wanted to explore that further. And we discussed it over one evening, and I went and grabbed a pack of cards and we started just messing around with the design, and came up with this game. And we put it together and play tested it loads and loads and loads and loads and loads, and took it to Essen with us and showed it to some publishers over there. And came back from Essen. We had a little bit of interest from publishers, and we sent some files off to people. But then there wasn't really much more noise about it from there. And then about a month ago, I decided that, maybe I should kind of kick up some interest in it again. So I created the BGG page and put the files. No, I didn't put the files. I just created the BGG page with a description in there and stuff like that. And then I happened to be looking at the page about 4 weeks ago and noticed that one person had ticked on there that they were interested in it. I can't remember exactly what the term is, but you can mark on, like, you can watch this item or whatever it is. And so I clicked on that and happened to see that it was Richard Ham, Rado. So I sent him a geek mail saying, hey, if you're interested, I can send you the rules and the print and play files. And he said, sure. So I did, and he read through them, gave me some feedback, which was really nice. But he said, but unfortunately, he wasn't really interested in printing out the game. It wasn't something he was too interested in doing. And I kind of left it at that. It was great. I got some nice feedback from him about what he'd read in rules. But that was as far as it went. Then 2 weeks ago, he contacted me and said, completely by coincidence, he'd been visited by some friends, and the person who had visited him happened to have a copy of the print and play from BGG. And they'd smartened up the cards a bit because they created their own backs. We didn't have any backs on there at the time. The backs are coming, people. The backs are coming. But at the time, we didn't have any card backs on there. And so he created some of that. He created a player aid, and he printed them out properly and had played it with Richard and with his wife. And apparently they really enjoyed the game. So much so that when the gentleman left, he gave Richard his copy. And Richard then contacted me and said, you're not going to believe what's happened. We've played the game through this guy leaving the game, and we love it. And I'd like to do a run through for you. And he did. And it was just the most amazing run through that anybody could have done for us, because the response that it has caused on Board Game Geek has been phenomenal. We've been #2 on the BGG Hotness since Friday, and It's now Monday, and for a print and play game, it's astounding. We've had nearly 1,500 downloads of the cards. And for anybody who's curious, this is the prototype box that we created to make it look like a leather-bound book. And I've actually just uploaded this cover so that people can print it out if they like. And this is simply wrapped around I think it's Coup board game box. So yeah. So any publishers that are out there that are interested in it, please get in contact. We're on the lookout.
Right. Now, how difficult did you find it to go from concept to where it is now? I mean,
well, okay. One of the things I really like about co-designing is that you've got somebody to bounce ideas around with. So normally, if you're kind of designing a game, you have an idea and you might write it down and then go back to it a week later or something like that, and then might be out walking or something, and suddenly an idea hits you or something hits you that kind of interests you about it. I'm very much a mechanics first person, and luckily Steve is a theme person, and he knows an awful lot about, for example, Sherlock Holmes. And so the idea of one of us being mechanics and the other being theme kind of works because we're able to bounce ideas off of each other, knowing a little bit about each other's side of things. So it becomes very much a partnership where we're totally integrated in it, because whilst one of us is focusing on one aspect and the other is focusing on the other, when we get together and throw the ideas together, it's just really cool to be able to interact together like that. The game has gone through a number of iterations. For example, at one point it had a board which was done, and the game used to actually be called Evidence Board. It was like a police evidence board, and people were pinning clues and evidence and suspects and all kinds of things all over the board. But now it's just a card game. So how long does it take? Who knows when it's finished? Still not finished yet, I guess. I mean, we're very happy with how it is now, but yeah, whether everybody will agree with that or not, I'm not sure.
I'm sure once a publisher picks it up, they'll do their own thing, their own development and artwork changes and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, one thing we're really hoping is that because it's so deeply entwined into the mythos, is that they'll at least pay that some respect with regards to what we've designed here, because it's so integrated. So, right. But we'll see. I mean, we're flexible as much as they're flexible. So we'll hope we find the right publishers, and it'll be a marriage made in heaven.
Like I said before, good luck with that. Yeah.
Thanks.
I'm sure it's an exciting time for you and then Steve right now with this particular
Very
game.
much so. We've got some others in the works as well. We've actually had, when we went to Essen last year, we took this one with us, and we actually took two others with us. But right now this is our main focus, and we'll be going back to the other two a little bit, well, shortly.
Right. All right. Now you're part of the Boom Quest there with Rhiannon, Linus, a bunch of other guys, role-playing sessions.
Sure.
How hard is it? Like, you go 3-4 weeks without doing a session. How hard is it to get back into the groove of things after such a break?
It's actually pretty easy because it's weird because for me, we record late at night in the States, which for me is early in the morning. I get up at 4 in the morning to record it. And so there are a couple of them might have had a drink or two, or are tired because of a long day's work or whatever, whereas I'm slightly more refreshed because I've just woken up and I'm still half asleep, but I'm slightly more refreshed than some of them are maybe. But yeah, it's easy enough. We haven't got that far into the story yet. We've only done 3 episodes so far, and we have a little bit of a recap at the beginning, and we've all got printouts and of character sheets, and we've also a lot of us using the Hero Labs app. So yeah, it's pretty good.
I was just I never
It's a
did
lot of
role
fun.
playing. I'm sorry, was it?
It was a lot of fun.
A lot of fun. Yeah, I never did a role playing game. I've been following these guys to see how they work out. It's kind of interesting, how you build a story together. Yeah,
One of the things that's hard about it is, in my opinion, is that there's 7, 8 of us on there at one time, and a lot of personalities on there. So it can be a lot of fun trying to sort things out. And I seem to remember last week getting into a bit of trouble, or last time, but getting into a bit of trouble with a couple of them. So I'm hoping to make that right next time.
yeah.
But yeah, it's a lot of fun.
How's Lance doing as the GM?
Fantastic job.
Is
Absolutely great.
Is this your first one, RPG? Or I know it's.
Is it my first one?
Yeah.
No.
Okay.
I've played some others before, but not to the same extent that Lance has. In actual fact, one of my earliest gaming memories is when I was at school. I must have been about 11 or 12, something like that. And I remember seeing a group of kids playing, younger than me, playing D&D, and being extremely jealous of them because they were able to play it, and none of my friends wanted to play it. And I actually had the very old purple basic Dungeons and Dragons books from whenever it is, 1980, must have been 1983, something like that. But not being able to play it. And it wasn't until a few years ago where I actually first got into being able to play, to do some role playing, because, as I said, none of my mates were into it. So I've done things like Fate and Fiasco, and Leverage was one I did, and a very little Pathfinder and D&D.
Okay.
It's always been fascinating.
Yeah, Jen has no interest at all. So I probably never will. But I do find it interesting how you could all create a story like that and follow it for the most part. Amongst each other. Of course, the DM has to read in once in a while, but.
Yeah, we had some ideas of some things we wanted to do with regards to doing a recap at the beginning of each show, but we haven't yet. So
yeah, I'm sure it's time and all that. I'm finding out myself. It's kind of hard to get 5 or 8 people together at once. Your mic got muted there. What was that?
I say I feel very, very fortunate to be a part of that group.
Yeah, they're good people. I know it was Suzanne's first one, and she got into her character right away, pretty head first. It's interesting to watch that.
Yeah, she's got a pretty cool character who's a half-orc druid, who is the protector of Rhiannon's character, who's a gnome who gets into all kinds of trouble, the little minx.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, my back's bothering me again. Now, what is your goals with whose turn is it anyway? What do you got planned for the future?
Well, after this weekend, relaxing. So yeah, I had a bit of a nightmare this weekend as the site got hacked, and I spent most of yesterday trying to get it back online, but eventually succeeded. So it's now back up and running. And we put up a new episode today, which we're talking about licensed games. And it's myself and Jacob, who's a regular, and Ignacy Trevacek from Portal Games, who's also a regular. And then we were joined this week by Marty Connell from Rolling Dice and Taking Names. So we've got that coming up this week. Jacob's also doing a series of interviews, written interviews on the website with a number of board game artists, which are quite interesting. He's done 3 already, and the next one he's doing is with Naomi Campbell. No, sorry, Naomi Campbell. Naomi Robinson is her name, who is a fantastic artist, has done things like Pay Dirt for Crash Games, and I think she did Ophir, the artwork on that as well. Okay. Beautiful fantasy artwork.
Yeah, her name sounds familiar. I'm trying to picture. Okay. So usually I ask people something I stole from Lance Meister there. 3 questions. What's a game you hate and everybody else loves?
Yeah, probably want to chicken out of this a bit because, as I said earlier, there isn't one game that I hate. It's more the experience that I tend to hate.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, it's a game that everybody hates. But one of my okay, this is a clue, not a clue, a snippet of maybe what might be coming up in a Spooning Meeples video for this week, which I'm doing. Before I left to move here to Denmark, we had a big family get together, and one of the games we played was Clue or Cluedo, and it was a special box that they had with some nice pewter miniatures of all the characters and stuff like that. And this was way before I got into designer games. And we played that game, and we played that game, and the game went on and on and on for 6 hours.
Wow.
Yeah. So that might be a game I hate, but unfortunately most other people, or a lot of other people, don't like it either. I'm not a huge fan of the heavy 4X games, mainly because they go on for so long. I really don't like games that go on and on and on and on and on for so long, because I can get in so many other games in that same period. In that same period of time, and I'd much rather play a variety of games in that same period of time. That's not to say I'll never play a long game, but I want to set aside a specific day to do it where I know that's all I'm going to be doing.
Okay. Is that why you never got the Arkham out?
Probably. Well, that, and at the time I had nobody to play with.
Yeah.
Because I played Eldritch Horror since then, and I really like that. But I can play that solo. I can play Arkham solo, but I just never have. Just
yeah. Yeah, Eldritch is a little more streamlined than Arkham. Well, it's newer. Yeah, I liked both of them. I'm actually going to trade. I just tried to trade Eldritch away because it never gets to the table.
Yeah.
Jen doesn't like it too much. Most of the people I play with in my family don't. So it's never hitting the table. But she does like Arkham better than Eldritch, but she really doesn't like either one much. So.
Yeah, and you're really good at trading games away, and that's one thing that's one thing that goes on a lot, I guess, in the States on the whole. It's a lot easier to trade games away than it is for people outside of the States, I think.
I'm sure the shipping, we have flat rate boxes,
Sure.
I'm sure it's one of them. I talked to a couple people about it. I'm not a collector, so I don't need everything that comes with a game, and all the promos and all that. So for me, if it's sitting and not getting played, I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah, other people get attached to it for whatever reason. They like the art, they like the collectability of the game or whatever.
Barry, I don't know if you can still hear me or not, but I need to log out and in again because my headphones have stopped working.
Okay.
Just give me 2 seconds.
Sure. So Robin will be right back. You're having difficulties here. Something that usually happens with Google. Or, technology in general with the Hangouts.
There we go.
Okay, I'm back. Okay.
Sorry about that. My headphones, once in a while, they just go a little bit crazy on me and stop working.
No problem. Like I was saying, it happens with Google in general. There's always some kind of technical difficulties. I actually just seen your thing in the chat right before you typed it.
Yeah.
You want to?
Anyway, it's working now, so cool.
Okay.
Good. Yeah. So I that whole idea. I'm the complete opposite. I'm a collector. I'm terrible at collecting. I have to have every promo card and every expansion and everything. And yeah, basically my wife's had enough of it, and I'm beginning to see that it's causing a problem now. So I'm trying to review the games that I've got in my collection and see which ones I will never play, which ones I don't need to have. I mean, I've got a couple of games in there that are duplicate games even, and I just haven't got rid of them yet. So trying to get rid of them, and not worry so much about getting every single promo card, things like that. But when you're a collector, it's just that itch to get it. So like I just received Zombicide Season 3, and I backed Season 2 and Season 3 on Kickstarter, but never backed the Season 1. So I'm missing all the Kickstarter exclusives from Season 1. And it hurts so much not to have specific. There's one specific one which I really, really want to get hold of because it's part of the Big Bang crew, and they've all been released in all the other ones. So there's one figure I'm missing, and that just, that's just a little itch that I need to scratch. But there's no way I'm paying eBay prices for it.
Yeah, we talked about Kickstarter, through chats and all that, and that's one of the things I don't like about Kickstarter: early bird specials and those exclusives for Kickstarters. Yeah,
so, an exclusive. This is what I don't get. When they call them promos, what exactly are you promoting when you're making it exclusive?
Yeah,
because you're only promoting it for a very short period of time. If you want to promote something and get it out there, get it to people to promote it even further. Give it to everybody. Make sure everybody can get hold of it. When you're making it exclusive, you're causing this. Well, mainly what it's causing is a problem because people end up selling them on, like what's just happened here at Tabletop Day with the Dead of Winter promo cards. They're going for on eBay for $50 or whatever.
Right.
And I really hope. I mean, I really want that card, and I'm not. Probably never going to get it, but my hope is that they'll eventually put them up on BGG so that people can buy them in the store there or on the Plaid Hat website, or maybe Geek and Sundry need to do something to raise some money and put something up there to buy them, things like that, because I don't understand why in a hobby that wants to expand all the time that you suddenly do things which make it inclusive, so inclusive and so locked in. Make things available for everybody.
Yeah. Now with Kickstarter, do you find that newcomers to the hobby know about Kickstarter, or
nope.
it just like the hardcore gamers?
I think it's mainly hardcore gamers that know about it. I can tell you, I've been into game shops in the UK where I've been talking to the owner and said, "Oh, and this game was on Kickstarter," and they've turned around and said, "What's Kickstarter?" And this is a store owner. Right. I'm thinking, well, you're missing out on being able to get things for your store here. But it's weird because I guess it's such a. I mean, I know it's available in other countries now, but it really is an American phenomenon, which has only started it really came to light in about 2012, I guess, even though it's been running for longer.
Yeah, it was right about the time I got it heavy into the hobby. It did about 2012.
Yeah. But it's strange though, because once you're inside the hobby, you tend to forget, and you tend to become very blinkered and forget what's going on outside of the hobby. And a real eye opener to me was for me this weekend at Tabletop Day, where I was there with a whole load of, I think we were a whole load. In our group, there was about 20, 25 of us, maybe something like that. And I happened to turn to one of them who was playing Beyond Baker Street, our game at the time. And I mentioned to him about Board Game Geek, that the game was on Board Game Geek, and he looked at me blankly. And I said, Board Game Geek. He's a gamer. Board Game Geek, and he didn't know what Board Game Geek was. And I was that blew my mind that he's a gamer, but he doesn't know that. And that's when you kind of remember that. Well, actually, I use that, but many people don't. I mean, they've got a phenomenal number of people using the game, using the website, and it is the number one resource for gamers, in my opinion. But there's still hundreds and thousands of people who don't know about it, and it's the same with Kickstarter. It's even the same with Twitter. If you think about the people that communicate on board game orientated on Twitter, it's such a minority of board gamers.
Yeah,
and it always kind of, when you're using it on a day-to-day basis and talking with other people involved in the hobby, you tend to forget that at the time you're the vocal minority there.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That's one thing I don't like about this is that social networking thing. Twitter. I never could get. I couldn't get my thoughts across in two lines. And we were talking about that board game hour before we went on. that I could never follow because of the same reason. I can't try and understand what they're saying in 2 lines, and then 6 people later they finish their thought.
Yeah, that shoots up pretty quickly on Board Game Air.
What did I ask you? A game you hated?
Yes, you asked me a game I hated that everybody else liked.
Well, it was a game you like and everybody else hates.
Well, one of my favorite games is Android Netrunner. I know that loads of people like that, but there's also plenty of people who aren't willing to give it a try because they've heard that the barrier to entry is so high because of the way that like what you call your hand of cards is called your grip, and your discard pile is called your archives, and because of the terminology in it, it makes it very hard to get into. And I know people don't like that, so that's a game that I really like that people dislike. What else? I can't think off the top of my head.
I'd be one of them people with the Android. I tried it. I couldn't get past the rule set. Yeah.
There's no, yeah. I mean, it takes some doing, and I've been sat here with the Doomtown LCG rules for a couple of days now, trying to read through them to get onto that. I've heard that's almost as tricky. So
yeah, I gave up on LCGs with Jen. I've tried just about every one of Fantasy Flights. None of them worked with her. The only one expandable card game, I guess you would call it, without the trademark, is Imperial Settlers. That's the only one she really gravitates towards. Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, I've tried a bunch of them. I gave up on them. I think I still haven't tried Summoner Wars with her. But we'll see.
What about So have you tried the Marvel Legendary game? Because that's constantly getting expansions put out.
Yeah, it was a no-go.
Okay.
Yeah. We did the Alien one too, the Alien Encounter.
Yeah.
She liked it, but she got bored of it quickly. I
actually think Encounters is a much better game than Legendary Marvel.
So do I.
I really like it. It's a good game, and I don't own it yet.
Yeah, after the initial sorting of the cards, it is a decent game. That initial trying to sort all them cards was a pain. I think they could have done a little better packaging of that.
Yeah, I luckily didn't have to unpack that because it wasn't mine. So.
Yeah, not like going through 600 cards and looking at fine print to find out which deck they go to. Yeah. All right. What is a conspiracy theory that you buy into, if there is one?
See, I actually did some research, and I knew you were going to ask these 3 questions, and I forgot totally about them. But this is the one I do remember you were going to ask. So I'm actually going to tell you something slightly different to a conspiracy theory. It's more just a theory of mine. Okay. So, when you have the feeling of deja vu?
Yeah.
Right. And it's kind of this unexplained, I've been here before. Well, my theory about deja vu is that you have actually been there before, but the time that you've been there before is you actually predicting the future, that you're going to at some point see this point in time again. And then when you actually have that feeling of deja vu, that's when you recall that you predicted that point in time. So it's a kind of time travel-y type of theory.
Yeah, get where you're going. It's an interesting thought process on it.
I have, I get I have a lot of deja vu, and every single time it's like, oh, I remember that was going to happen. I remember me thinking at the time, this is going to be a case of deja vu in the future, and then remembering, I remembered that point, and it's like, yeah. So there you go. There's one for the theorists.
Yeah, like I said, I've had moments like that. That's a kind of interesting outlook on
it. So not so much as a conspiracy, but definitely a theory.
Yeah. All right. Look, I don't want to keep you too long. I know it's like 10 o'clock over there, or 10 of. So if people are trying to find your podcast, where would they look?
So the podcast is available on iTunes and on Stitcher and on SoundCloud Soundcast, something like that, and one other one which I can't remember the name of either, unfortunately, but it's also available on our website at whoseturnisItanyway.com, and it's also available on BGG, where we've got a I've listed each episode goes up in the podcast section on BGG, and we also have a guild on BGG. And then we have the website, which has all the articles. We have interviews, we have design articles by loads of guest designers. The last one put up there was by Matt Wolf, who's got a game coming out called Wombats. Name's escaping me. That's very bad of me. I can't think what it's called now. Something to do with wombats. Anyway, it looks great. Hang on, let me get it up. It is called. Wombat Rescue. There we go. Wombat Rescue. Sorry, Matt. It's called Wombat Rescue. And yeah, as I say, Jacob, he's done some interviews with some artists. The last one was by Josh Capel, who does loads of artwork for Tasty Minstrel games, Scoville, Belfort, games like that. And the next one, as I say, is by Naomi Robinson. And we've got more reviews coming up. Yeah, that's pretty much what we've got going on there.
Okay, now for Spoon and Meeples, where can they find that at?
Yep, Spooning Meeples also has a guild on BGG, where again we're always looking for people to come and interact with us. And the Spooning Meeples doesn't have a website, but we're on YouTube at youtube.com/Spooning Meeples.
Okay.
So that's easy enough.
Yeah. Now, if you had run into somebody on the streets just getting in the hobby, what advice would you give to
them? That's tricky because it depends totally on who they are, I guess. Joe Blogs, who I don't know, it would be give games a chance. Just give them a chance, because the first game you try might not be the ideal game for you. It depends who you're playing with. It depends what the game is. It depends what your interests are. It depends. There's so many games and so many types of games, so many mechanics and themes and what have you, and people who play games differently, that just because you try it once and maybe don't enjoy it doesn't mean to say next time you will. So be open to trying everything a lot. Play lots of games. Have fun. Enjoy the experience of playing the game.
Yeah, that's good advice. Now, what about somebody you meet on the street who wants to start a podcast? What advice would you give to them?
Do not underestimate how much hard work it is. Because if I had known, I would have seriously reconsidered doing the podcast. It is a lot more hard work and a lot more time consuming than I ever thought it was. If you want to put out something that you consider to be of any value and quality.
Yeah.
And we're still improving every single time, trying to look at ways to make it better quality, better sound, more interesting topics maybe. I would say it's only the last maybe 5 or 6 podcasts that I've been really, really happy with, because we've had some phenomenal guests on who've been entertaining, who've been thought-provoking, and yeah, the last ones have really, really been good and have been getting a lot of good feedback, and I hope that people enjoy them.
Yeah, I haven't. Today's one I didn't listen to, but most the other ones I have. Yeah, you are getting better, and that's natural with anything. I mean, you start off, you're uncomfortable with the camera or microphones, and you're feeling your way out.
Yeah, I can tell you that we actually did a recording before we went live with the first podcast. We actually did it as a promo to go up on, because we're part of the Cardboard Studios network. We actually did it as a promo to go up on Cardboard Jungle's audio feed. And so we recorded this one, and that was all well and good. And then we came to record the first actual one. And I thought I had prepared myself. And I really was I had everything laid out. I had notes everywhere. Well, notes organized and things ready to go. And I pressed record, and I was like a deer in headlights. And it took Nate Brett, who is Ministry of Board Games, to kind of intervene, and he really ran that first podcast, and he did such a good job of it. So I'm thankful for his help on that, because without him on that first episode, it wouldn't have started up the way it did. And yeah,
I get where you're going. My first one, I stopped halfway through because I felt like an idiot talking to myself. The first video I did.
I've done that for the videos. So with Spinning Meeples. So before I did Spinning Meeples, I did a review that's still out there. It was only last year for Oddball Aeronauts, and I did it on Eduardo's video channel as a guest review, number 38, Oddball Aeronauts, and it was supposed to be a 5-minute segment. And it took me over 2 hours to record, and I had stopped. I'd given myself 5 minutes, and I went back and said, right, if I don't do it this time, I'm giving up and not doing it anymore, because I was terrible at it. Anyway, I put it out there, and it's not great by any means. In fact, it's far from great. It's far from good. So when it came to the first Spinning Meeples one, yeah, that took a bit of time as well. But with each one, it's become slightly better, slightly easier to do. We've only done, I think I'm on number 4 of the actual ones, which are just me, and we've done 3 of the combined ones so far. So they're getting easier to do. But the Spinning Meeples ones, they also have a bit of a certain style to them as well. The way they're very abruptly cut and jolty. It's half, from my perspective, it's half done on purpose, because that's the style that I kind of always associated with the videos, and I kind of like it. It kind of works. But the other half is out of necessity, because I mess up lines, or I forget what I'm going to say, or something happens where there's a noise in the background or something like that. But the one I'm recording tomorrow, I'm going to try something, hopefully going to try something different, and actually do something scripted for once. But we'll see. It might not turn out scripted, so who knows?
Yeah, good luck with that. I've never had luck with scripts. I tried a couple of times. I never had luck with them. I know.
Sorry, I was going to say there's a specific reason why this one needs to be scripted. But yeah, we'll see if it happens or not.
Yeah, we'll see. You might find it easier. I know, like Chaz Marler, all of his stuff is scripted because it helps him convey his message easier.
Yeah, but he's got teleprompt as well, which I don't have, and I don't have a proper camera. I just use my iPhone. So I need to get proper camera, then I can get teleprompt. I've actually looked into making a homemade one today. We'll see.
Yeah, I've actually looked into that too myself. Like you said, we'll see. I always, like I said, I tried twice, and I always tend to veer off it. And then with Jen, I tried it with the actual game overview section, but playing the games with Jen and the final thoughts, that I can never use a script. She's all over the place.
But at least you got somebody to bounce off.
Yeah, recently. In the beginning, it was just me solo.
Yeah.
I brought Jen on, I don't know, about 8 months ago or something, 6-8 months ago. And then Noja came on our cat because she has to stick that cat in every video we have without me realizing it. Yeah, he came on about 6 months ago. So, but yeah, like I said, I tried to script the game overview and the setup once, and I never stick to it. I find it easier just to do it on my own, but I always forget something, so I go back and refilm stuff. And, that's probably the hardest video for me, is that rules overview video. And at one point in time, I thought about just cutting it out completely.
So one of the things I really like about doing the videos is learning all the kind of behind the screens kind of secrets. And because when you watch something, I mean, when I watch a film or something like that, I never think about the processes they're going through and the fact that things are filmed out of sequence and all kinds of stuff like that. And it's through brilliant editing that it happens. And you kind of, when you're watching a film, you forget about that. And when it comes to actually recording something yourself, sometimes you don't always think about doing things like that because you're not in that mindset. And when you start doing things like that, it makes the process a lot more entertaining, I think.
Yeah, it does.
I really enjoy editing the video bits, actually, possibly more than the audio for the podcast.
Really? Yeah, it is interesting. Yeah, like I try not to veer off too much, especially with like voiceovers, because my voice changes a couple times throughout the day, and you can always tell when there's a voiceover, or when I film something later on in the day than I did in the beginning of the day.
Right.
You know, so I try not to veer too far away, you know, because of that. But it's been a very interesting learning experience, this whole thing. You know, I never realized there was that much work put into it. You know, I'm sure you know with the audio.
Yeah.
That's actually what I'm trying to fix now is the audio. It's tough with Jen because she fidgets, so I can't give her like a lav mic. You know, I can't put a mic on the table because she'll be banging the table all the time.
Yeah.
Looking at the shotgun mics, I don't know yet, but
it's great what you can do. I mean, I bought for the podcast. I bought a mic, this Zoom H1 mic, which is great. It allows me to also record on it. So if I wanted to do interviews or something like that, I can do that. Not that I did at Essen when like I was supposed to, but yeah, maybe a plan for Essen this year.
Yeah,
and maybe something special on the video as well. We'll see.
Yeah, but like I said, I don't want to keep you too late. I know it's like 10 o'clock at night over there, and I never know how to end these. So
just say cheerio, I guess.
Any final thoughts before we go? Anything you want to touch on?
Not really. Thanks to everybody who listens to the podcast. Thanks to everybody who reads the posts on the website. Thanks to everybody who watches Spooning Meeples and contributes on both the Whose Turn Is It Anyway Guild and the Spooning Meeples Guild. And thanks to everybody who's downloaded and has played Beyond Baker Street this weekend and who is going to in the coming weeks. And a huge thank you to Rado for his review of the game, because without him, it would still be languishing in the depths. I hope something great will come from it. So thanks to that, and thanks to you, Barry, for inviting me on.
Oh no, thanks for coming on. You know, like I said, one of the reasons I did is to get to know people in the hobby a little better. You know, I find the people in the hobby are very interesting to me. They're very outgoing. You know. It's for the most part.
I was going to say, it's funny because if you actually know me, I'm a total introvert.
So am I.
I kind of hate interacting with people, and which is really weird because at the see, that's one of the things I'm going to side now. Being a board gamer, and it's amazing how many board gamers there are who think of themselves or who are introverted on a daily basis, but when you sit them down at the table around this common theme, common interest, how suddenly they come to life and become extroverted. I mean, the fact that I did a podcast and I'm doing video and I'm chatting with you now live on YouTube and stuff like that, a year ago or 2 years ago, I would never have believed it if you said it. Never.
Yeah. Yeah,
but it's a common thing.
Yeah. All right, well, thanks everybody for watching. Thanks for being on, Robin.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.